The following lesson is linked to Learning Outcome 2, Reading and Viewing. It addresses the assessment standard that requires learners to explore and explain key features of texts and how they contribute to meaning in visual, audio, and multimedia texts. Learners should be able to recognize the use of visual, audio, and audiovisual techniques, such as the use of color, dialogue, music, sound, lighting, editing, framing, styles of shot, camera techniques, foregrounding, and backgrounding.
Hi, I'm Megan. In our previous lesson on analysing a film, we looked at how a character is portrayed in a film, and we learned how there are various clues we can look out for to see how a character is being portrayed. Let's revise these. We can get clues about characters from what they look like, what they wear, their body language, how they speak, what they say, what other people say about them, and how they've been filmed. In our previous lesson, we saw how to analyze the main character in a film by looking out for these clues. But you can also look out for clues given about or by the supporting actors. Later on in this lesson, we are going to look at what some other characters have to say. But when I ended the previous lesson, I said that in this lesson, we'd be looking at what other characters have said about our main character, Sol Plaatje. So let's begin by looking at a character who has obviously heard of Sol Plaatje.
Good morning, Father. I'm Solomon Plaatje.
Mr. Plaatje,
Have we met before?
your reputation precedes you.
First of all, the minister knows who Plaatje is and says that his reputation has preceded him. Do you know what this expression means? It means that even although the minister hasn't met Plaatje, he's heard reports about him. Let's continue to watch the clip. Well, now that we've considered the main character of this film and what other characters say about him, let's explore some of the other characters. We'll begin with the minister because we've just seen a clip that he appears in. Do you recall from our series of lessons on examining a film that one of the functions of showing a full shot of a character was to enable us to observe his or her costume and surroundings? What can you tell about this character based on his clothing and surroundings? The church in the background and the minister's clothing makes it obvious that he's a church minister, and we know this before we even hear him speak. Listen to the first bit of dialogue. Pay close attention because Plaatje is about to ask the minister if he can use the church as a bioscope venue. Listen carefully to the reply that he receives.
How can I help?
I would like to ask your permission to use the school or your church for a bioscope show.
We would have to ask permission of the authorities.
I understand. Thank you very much for your help.
Anytime, Mr. Plaatje. Modimo a kgokgonolofatse.
When the minister tells Plaatje that he would have to ask the authorities before allowing Plaatje to use the church as a bioscope venue, Plaatje says that he understands. Although this is a short conversation, if we read between the lines, we see that far more is actually being said. We're able to work out that the minister supports Plaatje, but because of the political climate at the time, he would be unable to openly help him. We are able to establish a lot about the minister from what he says, but also from how the shot is filmed. Note how these characters are filmed in bright sunshine. This helps to convey the idea that their plans are good and honest. Also, consider how both characters are filmed together in the same shot. This shows that they share the same purpose. In places, we see over-the-shoulder shots, which makes us feel as if we are intruding on a private conversation. Later on in the film, we see that the minister attends Plaatje's bioscope show. This confirms our suspicion that he would have liked to have supported Plaatje, but because of the political climate at the time, and perhaps the views of his church, he was unable to openly do so. His body language and smile indicate that he supports what is being said. Notice how the minister is the only white member of the audience in this clip. Why do you think this is significant? So far, we've seen Sol Plaatje and his new friend Musi look for a bioscope venue. After the church proves to be unsuitable, Musi has another idea. Here we see a long shot of Mohammed General Dealer. Once again, the long shot fulfills the function of showing us where the action will take place. The type of store that it is and the old-fashioned signs also give us clues as to the time period. The first time we see Mr. Mohammed, we are also given clues about this character. Look at his costume and body language. What type of person is he? We see a close-up of his smiling face and note that he is lit by natural sunlight. These film techniques help show us that he will be a likable character even before we hear him speak. Do you think he's likely to let Musi and Sol Plaatje use his venue to show the bioscope? Do you see how good we're getting at working out what a character will be like based on our first impressions? I also hope you're noting how we're able to apply the film study techniques we already know to actual examples of film. Have you noticed how the first time we see characters, we often see a long shot of them, and then when they speak, the camera zooms in to show us their faces in more detail? This enables us to observe the surroundings and costumes at the beginning of the sequence, as well as body language and facial expressions when the camera zooms in closer. Another important character that we meet is Musi's grandmother. We meet her when Musi takes his new friend home with him. Listen to her being introduced to Sol Plaatje.
Oh, Musi ngwanaka. O tlhotse kae tota ke ne ke tshwenyegile ka wena.
E ntshwarele hle mme. Molato ke wane.
Mme lo kae?
Ke tsogile mme. Mme ene o bona jang o tshela?
Ke tsogile ngwana.
Pay attention to the greetings in this sequence. How would you describe them? Very formal and polite. This indicates that Musi's grandmother cherishes traditional African values. Also note how the two characters are shown together in one frame. When Sol Plaatje says that he intends to sleep in the car, this is what the grandmother replies.
He sleeps in his car, Nkoko.
I cannot let a visitor sleep in the open.
From the grandmother's clothing and surroundings, we've already worked out that she's not a wealthy woman. Despite this, though, she's still prepared to share what little she has with a complete stranger. This shows that she values traditional hospitality. This is again shown in the next clip. Pay attention. By quoting her ancestors, Musi's grandmother is again showing the importance she places on traditional beliefs. From what we already know about the real Sol Plaatje, we know that one of his passions was traveling around the country and documenting or writing down people's experiences of the Land Act. By including this in the scriptwriter has been able to achieve two important functions. Firstly, he's able to show the actor engaging in an activity that the real Sol Plaatje did, that is, recording people's experiences. Also, it enables him to include a story within a story. In other words, we told about the grandmother in addition to being told about the broader story of Sol Plaatje.
When Musi's mother was pregnant,
Listen to Musi's grandmother tell her story. Why is this a powerful piece of information to include in this film?
We came here at the end of 1930. We had to give up our cattle so that I could work here. Soon after, my son left for Johannesburg to find work. He only comes back once a year. Musi's mother left a year ago. She is waiting for us in Bechuanaland. That is all that is left of us.
As sad as the story is, it fulfills an important function in this film. It illustrates an example of one person who lost her land as a result of the Land Act. This happened to many thousands of people at this point of time in history. However, by putting a human face to the story, it encourages viewers to empathize with people who lost their land in this way. It gives a human face to the story. Although this film is not intended to be a history lesson, using the grandmother's story is a way of giving a lot of information in a short space of time, and giving history a personal face. So far, we haven't discussed the most important supporting character in this film, namely Musi. He is a very important part of this film as he accompanies the main character Solplaatjie from the start of his visit to the village right until the end of it. In the historical account of the life of Solplaatjie, no mention is made of his friend Musi. So why do you think the filmmaker or scriptwriter has chosen to include this character? There are a number of possible answers to this question. I think the most important function that Musi plays is that he provides someone with whom Solplaatjie can talk. In talking to Musi, the character of Solplaatjie also talks to us. Musi asks Plaatjie many questions that he then answers. In answering the questions for Musi, some of our own questions as audience members are also answered. The tender and encouraging way that Plaatjie speaks to Musi also helps us as audience members to see another side of Solomon Plaatjie. Instead of thinking about him as an activist and politician, as the history books present him, these clips show us that he may have been a very caring, genuine person. So far in this series of lessons, we've learned that there are a number of clues that we are given about characters in films. We can get clues about characters from what they look like, what they wear, their body language, how they speak, what they say, what other people say about them, and how they have been filmed. So be on the lookout for these features of films the next time you watch one. You'll be amazed at how much information about a character is contained in a film if you consciously look for it. Please join me for the next lesson. Goodbye.